One of the biggest benefits of owning an Apple Macintosh is the fact that you can run Windows on these machines. But there are plenty of great things about this feature, but there are some terrible, this is ridiculous type of things as well. So today we'll discuss why you should and should not use Windows on a Mac. Let's get started. Installing Windows on a Mac is pretty straightforward. You open up the applications, then the utilities folder, then Boot Camp Assistant, and run through the prompts there. After all this, you go through an installation process that requires a Windows installation disk, ISO, or flash drive. Overall, it's pretty straightforward. It might end up taking like an hour or two to get everything done, so get a snack or something. Then it's the situation after that makes or breaks the experience. First, let's start off by talking about the positives. You're able to run Windows applications and features that you couldn't before, like Windows-only games and Xbox One game streaming. Even if you're a huge fan of macOS, you have to admit that there are some limitations. Windows is the most popular computer operating system, therefore they have more applications and more different programs than macOS ever will have, and therefore can fit in many more workflows than macOS can. It makes your Mac run just as a Windows machine would. The only difference is the exterior is still Apple's build, still looks like a Mac. So it's kind of like if Bill Gates decided to wear a black turtleneck to emulate Steve Jobs. It kind of looks like Steve Jobs doing things, but if you rip off that black turtleneck, it's just Bill Gates doing his own thing. I won't go into too much details on how Windows works because I assume most people who have used a computer before know exactly how it works. And if you do decide to install Windows on your Mac, you still have access to macOS. When you boot up the machine, you can decide between using macOS or Windows. It's kind of like choosing between Coke or Pepsi, or Team Cap or Team Iron Man. So it's the perfect machine, right? Best of both worlds? Well, there are some negatives, so not necessarily. If you're using a Mac laptop, the keyboard shortcuts are a little bit wonky in Windows. Option C to copy instead of Control C is not the ideal layout. My fingers are doing some gymnastics and some weird yoga poses trying to memorize this new combination, but you can change what each key does through some registry edits. Also in Windows, some optimizations Apple made for macOS don't apply. For example, the machine does run a little bit hotter and the battery does drain a bit quicker, or at least that's my personal experience with it. Next, while you can install Windows on an external hard drive, if you install it on your primary hard drive within your machine, you'll lose about 30 gigabytes of storage. And that's before you install any apps. And by the way, you have to pre-allocate how much you want within the Windows partition, which means you have to decide right now, as you're creating the thing, how much storage space you want the Windows side to have. This can be a very big issue if you decide, hey, I need more storage space, I don't have enough, because it's actually quite a bit of a hassle to get more storage space on the other side. Back up and reinstall the whole thing type of difficult. Lastly, if you're running the machine through virtualization, the performance of the machine suffers. Okay, imagine for a second you're running. Pretty easy, right? But now imagine you're running with a backpack filled with heavy tools. That's pretty much the virtualization process. You get more functionality, but it's just harder to run everything at once. Performance suffers. Performance degradation varies from virtual machine to virtual machine, but it will happen. However, you do get the benefit of being able to run macOS and Windows side by side at the same time. Now, there may be a few pros and cons that I'm missing, but those are the ones that stood out the most to me. In my own opinion, the ability to run Windows on a Mac is a huge selling point because it makes the machine so much more versatile. I have a few casual Windows games and applications that I like to run on my MacBook Pro in Windows mode, and it does it just fine. It feels just like vanilla Windows. So now I have a few questions for you guys. Do you want to run Windows on your Mac? Is this a big selling point for you at all? Do you see a purpose for it at all, or would you just never do it because you think it sucks for some reason? Leave that all down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and well, don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.